Good evening, everyone. I would first like to take this opportunity to thank you all for coming out. It's amazing to see your support. My name is Zachery Wolf, and I am a sophomore pre-medicine biology major. Running for the position of president for Student Government Association is a very big decision that requires a lot of thought and observation before one decides that is what they want. I have now spent 2 years, one as a General Assembly member and one as the Vice President of Technology. And now that I have spent these 2 years on here, I have been observing and considering the possibility of running for this position. I know that as the president of SGA, you cannot accomplish everything by yourself, but you must be able to rely and trust in your executive board and in your General Assembly members. I know that I can effectively do such because I have been in for 2 years and have developed good working relationships with the members so far. I have also served with the majority of the executive board candidates, and we have already established a well-oiled working relationship. My leadership experiences to this point have included my position as the Vice President of Technology, the Vice President of Students Behind Our Troops, many leadership seminars and conferences, including the National Conference for Student Leadership and Leadership Experience Group that is facilitated by the Vice President of Student Development and Engagement, and has been a year-long process to help develop myself and others as inner leaders. One of the most important roles that I have ever held and continue to hold is that of a firefighter and emergency medical technician. That has taught me more than I can ever wish to learn. My very unique experiences and desire to do the job, along with my strengths and belief, individualization, responsibility, competition, and arranging, are just the beginning of why I desire to be the next Gannon University Student Government Association president.
I first want to start off by thanking Zach for letting me participate in this debate. My circumstances are a little unusual. I entered this race fairly late in the process, a decision that, like Zach mentioned, required a lot of thought before entering. And the reason that I entered this race is because I strongly believe in the students and in democracy. I believe that the students deserve a choice, and as fantastic as a candidate as Zach Wolf is, I think that SGA is going to be stronger as a result of this discussion of the issues and the opportunity for students to have that choice. I myself have had a number of leadership positions on campus. The past year, I have spent working with student media organizations, increasing communication of events for numerous clubs and organizations throughout the year. And I recently took on the position of managing editor of Edge magazine starting in January. And through that, we have seen tremendous growth in terms of the output of the organization, as well as consistent brand messaging. And I truly hope to bring that same consistency, efficiency, and communication to the office of President of SGA.
I feel that I'm qualified for this position, as I explained in my opening statement, that I've had 2 years of extensive immersion in the student government environment. I think that to be able to hold the position of student government president, you need to be able to, first of all, lead the General Assembly and the executive board, because if you don't have the trust of your members and you don't know how to lead your members, you're not going to be efficient in getting the job done. Now, that being said, it doesn't require that you be in SGA whatsoever, but I do believe that my leadership abilities that I've developed within SGA, seeing how SGA is run and being immersed in that environment, has really given me an upper hand. Along with that, I have mentioned before that I'm also the vice president of another organization that has brought my leadership abilities to more of a fuller round circle, and then my leadership outside of the university, along with running with fire departments around the county, that has just brought an experience that most people don't get to have. I know how to deal with life and death situations, and I know how to be able to act on a dime. If something happens, we can turn on it quickly. And I do believe that that will benefit me in the future. I know this is something that I truly desire, and you have to want this to be able to do the job. And if you don't want to do it, if your heart and soul isn't in it, I don't believe that you can do it.
What qualifies me to become the SGA president is almost 100% opposite of what Zach Wolf said. I have not been a member of SGA, and I believe that gives me a unique perspective as to what the organization needs. I have been looking into SGA over the past 2 years, following it very carefully, and I know the strengths and the weaknesses of the organization. I'm not tethered to what has been done in the past, and I'm able to use that. One example of how I've been able to, bring new life into an organization is with Alpha Psi Omega, the theater fraternity, where I have initiated a strategic planning and constitutional review of that organization, leading to a more systematic and efficient organization as a result of that. The main point, and I think the main distinction between myself and Zach, is that my presidency would be forged through advocacy for the students. I believe that the position of SGA and this entire debate and election should be treated as a job interview. The position of SGA president requires immense support from the students. It requires immense experience, and I have that experience and that support. I would really focus on making the tough choices for advocating on behalf of the students. If students have an issue, SGA should be the vehicle for that change. Individual students on their own have a little bit of power, but in numbers, we have a lot of power. And I believe that SGA, by rallying the 3,000 undergraduate students that we have here at Gannon University, we can affect great change. And as president, I would make sure that we make those great changes that will benefit all the students. Not just the students in this room, not just the students who are watching on the live stream, but every student, including the international students, the commuter students, the students in Greek life. No matter what your idea is, no matter what club or organization you're affiliated with, SGA should be a beacon of change for you. And as president, I would enact those tough choices to get what you deserve.
Now, as Michael said, that the SGA is meant to represent the students. We are the students' voice. We are the liaison between the students and between the faculty, staff, and administration. And to make it my own, I would like to build off of what past presidents have already designed. Yes, I know that every year is changing, but I think that there's a strong foundation that can be built upon. I have already been an advocate for the students for the 2 years now, along as Michael has explained he has as well. But I do believe that individuals have just as much power as the group because it needs to come from one individual and build on there. I've also mentioned running my ACE campaign, accountability, communication, and efficiency, and I fully intend on improving that, and so students are well aware of what's going on campus and making sure that each individual student has their voice heard, and I truly mean that. I think one of the main weaknesses within SGA is the overall involvement. Over the past couple of years, the involvement, we've had full boards and full GAs that have declined to diminished numbers to the point where some voting issues can't even be carried out. I think one major issue that needs to happen is the restructure of the General Assembly. I think there needs to be a difference in membership and definitely an encouraging more outside groups to have functional representatives. If we just have the core people there in the classes, we can get somewhat of an input, but unless we have someone there to represent everyone on campus, we can't effectively do our job. And so I think that's one thing that definitely needs to change. Another is I think the election process has some changes that need to be coming to it, where there needs to be the opportunity for a presidential election before the executive board elections, because you could have more candidates that would like to run for president, but then not have the opportunity to run for an executive board position. So you could have many strong candidates for president, but then once you have them, you lose their opportunity to run for executive board positions. I also think that SGA needs to, as I've heard from different clubs and organizations and random students on campus, that SGA needs to become more transparent. I think that be able to be built upon, and that is obviously, I said in my ACE campaign, communication. I want to build that. I want students to be able to come to the student government, and I want us to be able to effectively communicate back and forth between the students, faculty, staff, and administration.
SGA is not a bad organization. It has very bright people in it, people who are committed to change. The problem with SGA at its core is it has an image problem. Students don't know what it does, or they think that it's simply a mechanism to hand out money. As SGA president, I would make sure that students know exactly what the function of SGA is. And I think I've proven that I can do that through working at Edge Magazine as the managing editor. As managing editor, I increased views by over 215%, so I clearly have a record of being able to effectively communicate with the students, which is exactly what SGA needs right now. Well, this is actually something, again, that we've run into at Edge Magazine, is keeping the volunteers and the staff members motivated throughout the entire year. It's always a challenge with student organizations. I think the number one thing is make sure that SGA is tackling issues that actually matter to the students. If the students themselves are invested in issues that they truly care about, they're going to want to come to the General Assembly meetings. They're going to want to be on those committees and actively participate. I think the thing, going back to the image problem, is too often students don't run for SGA or don't participate or don't show up to General Assembly meetings because they have no idea what's going on there. So as president, I would effectively communicate to the students exactly what SGA does, and if that's not what the students need, we would adjust it. We would change the rhetoric, we would change the structure, change the paradigm of how SGA functions to make sure it's meeting the needs of the students. And through that, and through meaningful action, more students are going to get involved. I would like to, as president, double the amount of students that are being involved, and I don't think that that is a difficult goal to achieve. I think that we can get over double the amount of students involved, but we need to take those steps one by one until we have elections that are at 95% voter turnout. I think that would be a fantastic thing to have. But it truly starts with attacking issues that have real value to the student population.
As Michael mentioned, that the image can sometimes be an issue, and I think that is a huge issue that needs to be tackled. Another issue within the SGA, which might sometimes be hard to see coming from an outsider's view, within meetings and within committee meetings and stuff that isn't necessarily open doors, that work being done, is that sometimes the students don't feel that they have a say on campus, that they don't feel that what they're doing is important, and that is what definitely needs reinforced. Yes, we do need to tackle, and we do tackle issues that are important to the students when they bring it to us, but I think one of the big changes that needs to happen is the students who are participating in SGA need to feel that their place on campus is necessary and that what they do is meaningful. And when we build on there, we'll be able to tackle even more projects, and when someone feels that their work is meaningful, they'll put their heart and soul into it, and we'll get even more support behind it. We're a college campus. You walk anywhere and you're going to hear there's issues with food. It's pretty obvious that many of the students on campus have issues with METs, and I would like to look further into that. I have already done some work with student government in extending hours in different places on campus, and we've also gotten some different food options and new signage some signage issues fixed in all of the little cafes. There's just a lot more improvement that could be done there with dealing with meal plans, that could be dealing with food options, and so that's one issue that everybody needs. Being the Vice President of Technology, I've heard lots of complaints about technological issues on campus. The Wi-Fi is not necessarily up to par in most of the areas, and it's spotty, it doesn't connect all the way, the service isn't great, and so I've actually been working with the Technology Advisory Committee and Mark Giordano, and I have improved the Wi-Fi connectability in Zurn. We've also developed new areas where Wi-Fi is happening, but there's a lot more room for expansion with that. And then along with that, students also complain about not knowing about what SGA does, and then they say, why doesn't SGA do this for me? Why doesn't SGA do this for me? And then they come to us with issues that are being dealt with at a university level that we are dealing with, such as new equipment in the buildings, and that's something that is further to come. And so I would like to continue my work with these three issues on campus and continue in stride to make these better for students as opposed to starting from fresh.
I think the first thing that we need to tackle as students, and I hear it time and time again over the past 2 years that I've been here, is making it very, very clear how clubs and organizations are funded and how, if they are not funded, they can appeal that process. One of the major functions of SGA is distributing money, and I believe that if we make it very clear and we actively work with the clubs and organizations, I know Katie's done a fantastic job of that, will really help it. The second one is bringing up issues with the administration. SGA should not always get along with the administration, and I think we need to accept that. I think too often SGA is seen as part of the administration, not kind of opposing it. And I think there are a lot of times when SGA can make the tough choice to stand up to the administration. And finally, centralizing communication. Too often, even at a student media organization, it's difficult to find all the events that are happening on campus. I think the thing that most excites me is the ability to enact real quantitative change on campus. I mean, the SGA president sits on the board of trustees, and that's not something to be taken lightly. To me, I think that may be one of the most important factors of the position, and we really need to make a dedicated choice about who we want sitting on that board. That's the thing that most excites me, and it's the thing that also, makes me nervous, because with that comes a lot of responsibility. I think through my experience on campus that I have that experience to, make the tough choices, to work with the administration when it's able, but also to stand up to the administration when that's necessary for the students. If SGA is the voice of the students, then it needs to act as the voice of the students. It can't be a megaphone for the administration. It can't be, really returning on what it does again and again. SGA has all the right ingredients right now. We just need some new recipes. And I think as president, I could create those recipes and really bring out those little gold nuggets that are in SGA right now.
In the question, you mentioned passion and why someone would want to do this position, and I think just because you have the know-how and the experience doesn't mean necessarily that the position is best for you. What really makes the position, yes, is the experience and the know-how, but the desire to be in that position. I have been working towards this for the past 6 years of my life to make it to a point where I can definitely make change on campus. And I have made change on campus, and I like to continue that. And like Michael said, one of the things that is a huge thing is sitting on the board of trustees. And with that comes the responsibility. And I know, and I have held that responsibility and have been to board meetings, not the official meeting, but the committee meetings, where I have had to represent student input, and that is the biggest concern, is that we need student input and to be able to represent the entire student body effectively, and I plan on doing that.
Well, if elected as SGA president, this would be my first priority. I'm active in the theater right now, but I've already made it very clear to my faculty that I'd be taking a step back from that if I was elected. This is a job, ultimately, and with that comes a certain amount of responsibility. It needs to be the top priority for whoever is elected, and if elected, it will be my top priority. I also have a job at admissions, and I've already talked to the relevant people there, and they think that that job would actually be done better if I was elected as SGA president. So I've already been working towards making sure that my schedule and everything is handled adequately.
As I mentioned before, SGA, I've been in it for 2 years now, and it has been my top priority. I have completely reorganized my entire life, and I'm even making changing living arrangements to be down here for further engagement. It has been my top priority and will continue to be my top priority. My schedules have always reflected having ample time for student government and making sure that I can be at the proper meetings, that I can be at the proper events, and I'll continue to do so. It'll be just another step for me to keep my heart into it, and I am completely devoted as I have been for the past 2 years, and I fully intend on keeping it that way. I have no issues where SGA will be my top priority. As I mentioned, my ACE campaign is just what I'm going to go off of. The biggest part in that accountability, communication, and efficiency is the communication. Both myself and Michael have touched on it. throughout this debate, and communication is a huge issue where the students need to know what's going on, where their money's going, what decisions are being made, why we've made those decisions, but they also need to know what's happening at a university level and why the university is making the decisions that they are making. But then again, we also have to communicate to the university what the students want. And we need to make sure that what's happening on campus is truly what the students want and not what the university is assuming that the students want. So communication's been the biggest ordeal. We've had a lot of striding towards the excellence in communication with marketing and different areas on campus, but that's definitely going to be my biggest hitting point.
My biggest priority next year is changing the public image of SGA. I've said it time and time again, SGA has an image problem, and sometimes it takes a fresh face to be able to really turn that image around. Due respect to Zach, I appreciate your service for the past 2 years, but again, sometimes it takes some fresh perspective. You see it all the time in the private sector, bringing in a new CEO after, there have been some trouble in the organization. And I think most people can agree that there is an image problem in SGA. I would firmly work towards fixing that and making all the students on campus aware of exactly what SGA does and get them more involved. I'd also like to see more diverse students being involved in SGA. Let's get more international students in the organization so that their needs and wants can be heard. At the end of my term, I see SGA as a kind of a phoenix rising from the ashes, so to speak. I would like more students to know exactly what SGA does, more students participating in the elections, more students attending General Assembly meetings, more students asking to be involved in committees. The main thing, I've said it again and again, is communication. We need to be able to effectively communicate to the students what we do in order to get their perspective of what they need. Without that communication back and forth, SGA is just gonna keep spinning its wheels, and we need to change the public face of SGA drastically.
At the end of the year, I think the main issue that we've discussed is, really bridging that, bridging communication with the students. Again, if we get the communication going, it's going to better the image of SGA. It's going to make students more comfortable to come to the Student Government Association to get things accomplished on campus. I think that the working relationship with administration, faculty, and staff right now is pretty well set, and that really we need to focus on the students because that is what we're here for. At the end of the year, I see students just walking into the SGA office when the doors are open, just talking about issues they see on campus and really being able to trust that we're going to take those ideas and make it happen. I want students to know that they are the voice on campus, that things cannot happen and will not happen unless they bring us the issues, because without the students, student government wouldn't be necessary. And so truly, I do believe that the students should see SGA as something there to help them and not just something that's in place. And again, the overall image will be bettered. I hope that I have relayed to you that I'm running for this position out of the desire to build upon what is already established and to bring SGA into a new era. I want this position, and it is going to require a lot of hard work and many hours of dedication so that I can best serve you as your president and that I am fully prepared to do so. My excitement for the possibilities here at Gannon is ever expanding, and I hope to extend that to more students every day. Furthermore, I know that I can be the person to turn to for anything. I have proved that my reliability is unwavering and that I will do whatever it takes to get the job done. I completed many projects in my time with SGA, including the Leadership Lab, a total website redesign. I assisted with the expansion and the extension of hours and food service options with METS. I was the main student input on the Blackboard implementation team, and I aided in the designing of all of the assistance materials involved of that massive program that now every student uses on campus. I understand what being the president of SGA truly means, and through my years of experience and extensive learning, I am the only one that can offer this knowledge and leadership experience it takes to this position, and I can take it in stride and run with it. In the words of the great Michael Jordan, you must earn your leadership every day, and that is exactly what I plan on doing.
I am a fresh face. I know what it takes to become the president, and I think it says something. I am a write-in candidate, and that's truly because I looked at everyone who was running for the executive board, and I noticed that all of the positions were unopposed. And I think that says something tremendous about the image of SGA. And that's not the fault of the people who are running for the executive board. They are all strong candidates. However, the system itself is flawed. And I want to go in there and fix that system. I want as many people next year running for the executive board as possible. I'd love to see 5 or 6 people running for president. I came in as a write-in candidate because I believe that students deserve a choice. They deserve a choice of who represents them to the Board of Trustees. They deserve a choice of who's going to be running the General Assembly meetings. They deserve a choice about whether to stick with the status quo or have a new fresh face. I can bring that fresh perspective. I can bring that leadership experience. I can bring that advocacy to you, the students.